The first time Officer Daniel Greer noticed the static, it was coming from his patrol car radio at 3:17 a.m. Units in the vicinity of Blackwell Bridge, please respond to reports of. Then the transmission dissolved into white noise. Not the usual radio silence. This was different. The static had a rhythm to it, like breathing. Daniel adjusted the dial, but the noise only grew louder. Then, beneath the hiss, a voice emerged, not the dispatcher's. A child's whisper, layered with something guttural. "Officer Greer, can you hear us?" His blood ran cold. The radio hadn't asked for his badge number. It had used his name. The call came in 20 minutes later. A 911 hang-up near the riverfront, traced to a payphone by Blackwell Bridge, the same one mentioned in the garbled transmission. Daniel found the receiver dangling by its cord, swaying slightly in the night air. No one around, but the phone's metal casing was warm, like it had been used for hours. Then he saw the footprints, leading from the riverbank, not toward it. The mud was dry, cracked. It hadn't rained in weeks. But these prints were fresh, dripping wet, each one perfectly formed. Until the last few steps, where the toes elongated, the arches collapsed, as if whatever made them was melting as it walked. His radio crackled again. Daniel. That same child's voice, but now undercut with a dozen others, men, women, all whispering in unison. "Look under the bridge." The beam of his flashlight cut through the darkness, illuminating the concrete support pillars. Something was written there. Not graffiti, not scratched in, burned. The words gleamed like wet ink under his light. "The static is alive." And beneath it, a single name, Lana Reeves. Daniel's stomach dropped. Lana Reeves had been his high school girlfriend. She'd vanished 15 years ago, last seen near this bridge. The Reeves case file was yellowed with age. Daniel flipped through the pages in the precinct's records room, his coffee going cold. Lana had disappeared October 31st, 2007. No body, no leads, just one odd detail. Her parents reported hearing static on the phone line the last time she called. It wasn't normal, her mother had written in her statement. The static, it sounded like whispering. Daniel's cell phone buzzed. Unknown caller. He answered. Nothing but white noise at first. Then, so faint he almost missed it. "You never looked for me." Lana's voice. But wrong. Stretched, like a recording played at the wrong speed. The call dropped. Daniel's screen showed the call duration, 17 seconds. His phone buzzed again, a text from the same unknown number. "The static remembers. The static is hungry. Come to the bridge tonight." Daniel shouldn't have gone back, but at 3:17 a.m., he found himself standing on Blackwell Bridge again, the river churning black below. His radio hissed to life without him touching it. Daniel? Lana's voice, but not just hers anymore. Dozens now, overlapping. "We've been waiting." The water beneath the bridge began to froth, not with foam, with static, like television snow bubbling up from the depths. Then the first hand emerged, pale, slick with black water, its fingers too long, the joints bending in impossible places as it gripped the concrete support. Then another hand, and another. Dozens of them, crawling from the river, their bodies made of shifting static and wet flesh, their mouths open in silent screams. Daniel stumbled back, but the bridge's railing was gone behind him, just empty air. The static people pulled themselves onto the walkway, their forms flickering between solid and distortion. The closest one raised its head, a face he recognized, Lana, but her eyes were wrong. Not just black, pixelated, like a corrupted image. Her mouth moved, but the voice came from everywhere at once. "You should have answered when the static called, Daniel. Now you'll join the broadcast." Her hand closed around his wrist. The cold wasn't water, it was signal. Pure, screaming static rushing into his veins. Dispatch found Daniel's patrol car parked neatly by the bridge at dawn. Engine running, radio on, no sign of him. But the dashcam footage showed something impossible. 17 seconds of Daniel sitting perfectly still, his eyes fixed on something off camera. Then, as the clock ticked to 3:17 a.m., his mouth opened. And instead of words, static poured out. Thick, liquid, filling the cabin until the screen cut to noise. When the image returned, the car was empty, except for the radio, still playing. And a new voice now mixed into the transmission. "This is Officer Daniel Greer, joining you live from Blackwell Bridge." His tone was perfect. "Broadcast ready. The signal is growing stronger. The static is alive, and it's hungry." The morning after Daniel's disappearance, every police radio in the precinct crackled to life simultaneously. A voice that wasn't Daniel's, but spoke with his cadence, delivered the same message. All units be advised. The static is now active in your area. Do not respond to calls from the Blackwell Bridge. Repeat, do not respond. Then the laughter started. Not one voice, hundreds, layered together in a chorus of distorted glee before cutting back to dead air. Officer Maria Gutierrez was the first to check the bridge. She found Daniel's service weapon on the walkway, its barrel warped like melted plastic, the steel etched with strange patterns that resembled radio waves. When she touched it, the metal was freezing, not cold, but absence of heat, like the void between stations. Her radio hissed before dispatch could respond to her check-in. Maria? Daniel's voice, but deeper, stretched. Can you hear the singing? Then, beneath his words, another sound, the distant, discordant hum of something massive vibrating underwater. The river wasn't flowing right. The current moved in jagged pulses, like a damaged audio waveform. And just beneath the surface, shadows shifted, not fish, but humanoid shapes drifting with the static, their outlines glitching in and out of focus. Maria backed away. Her boot hit something, a phone, not a modern smartphone, but an old rotary model, its cord severed. The receiver was wet, dripping black fluid that smelled like burnt copper. It rang. Against every instinct, she answered. Officer Gutierrez? A child's voice giggling. You're on the air. Then the screaming started. Not through the phone, but from the river itself, a cacophony of voices rising with the static. The water bulged, as if something immense were pushing up from below. Maria ran. Behind her, the payphone's disconnected cord slithered across the pavement like a living thing, following. By noon, reports flooded in. Residents near the bridge woke to find their TVs tuned to a dead channel, volume maxed, displaying only flickering static, with shapes moving inside. Every digital clock in a 3-block radius was stuck at 3:17. Pets refused to go near the river, howling at the water as if it were a living threat. The techs at the station couldn't explain why all body cameras from the night shift had corrupted footage, except for 17 seconds of clear audio captured by Officer Ramirez's unit. Don't look directly at it. The static gets in through your eyes. Daniel's voice, frantic. Then wet crunching sounds, then laughter. The recording ended with a final whisper. We're all part of the broadcast now. Lana Reeves' mother, Evelyn, still lived in the same house on Willow Street. The moment Maria mentioned the bridge, the old woman's hands began to shake. It started with the phone calls, she whispered. Lana said the static talked to her, said it knew her name. Evelyn opened a dusty shoebox, revealing a stack of cassette tapes. She recorded them. I couldn't listen after she was gone. Maria played the first tape in her patrol car. Lana's voice, young and trembling, Mom, it's happening again. The static isn't just noise, it's alive. It's hungry, it keeps saying. A burst of deafening white noise. Then, a voice that wasn't Lana's. We see you, Lana. We've always seen you. The bridge is waiting. The recording cut to the sound of a door slamming, footsteps running. Then, worst of all, a wet, rhythmic chewing before the tape ended. Maria ejected it, her hands slick with sweat. The cassette's label had changed. Now it read, Your Turn. That night, Maria sat in her parked car near the bridge, watching, waiting. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the streetlights dimmed. The air grew thick with the scent of ozone and rotting meat. Then the humming started, not from the river, from her radio. A low, droning frequency that made her teeth vibrate. The static formed words, Maria, join us. The water below began to churn. Shapes emerged, not the static people this time, but something worse. A hand. Then an arm. Then a head, rising slowly, water sluicing off features that glitched between human and something else. Daniel. But his eyes were pure static now, his mouth moving out of sync with the voice coming through the radio. You should have turned back, Maria. Now the signal's in your blood. Her skin prickled. Her vision fuzzed at the edges. And she realized, too late, the truth. The static wasn't just around her. It was inside her now, seeping in through her ears, her pores, her thoughts. The last thing she saw before her mind dissolved into noise was Daniel smiling, his teeth gleaming like polished radio dials. The last thing she heard was the bridge's song, beautiful and terrible, as the static welcomed her home. The broadcast continues. The precinct found Maria's patrol car the next morning, parked neatly beside the bridge. Engine running, radio on. Her dashcam footage showed 17 seconds of her sitting perfectly still, eyes wide, before static flooded the cabin. When it cleared, she was gone, but her voice still comes through on late-night transmissions. All units be advised, the static is listening. And in the dead air between words, if you listen close, you can hear the bridge singing, waiting, hungry. The signal is alive, and it's spreading. The precinct tried to quarantine the Blackwell Bridge after Maria vanished. Barricades went up, patrols doubled. But the static doesn't obey physical laws. It seeped through phone lines, Wi-Fi signals, even the electrical wiring in the station walls. Officer Ramirez discovered this the hard way when his computer screen flickered to life without being touched. Security footage from the bridge played, not the corrupted files from Maria's disappearance, but something older. Grainy black and white footage from October 31st, 2007. Lana Reeves, 17 years old, standing on the bridge at 3:17 a.m. She wasn't alone. Behind her, the shadows moved wrong, stuttering like buffering video. Then the camera glitched, and when the image stabilized, Lana was gone. Only the static remained, pulsing in the shape of a person where she'd stood. Ramirez reached to shut it off. The screen went black. Then 2 words appeared in glowing text, "Your turn." His radio crackled to life without being touched. Ramirez. Maria's voice layered with something deeper. The static wants to show you something. The station's lights dimmed. The air smelled like burning wires. And from every speaker in the precinct, intercoms, radios, even cell phones, a chorus of whispers rose. "We've been waiting for you." Evelyn Reeves sat in her darkened living room, the shoebox of tapes at her feet. She hadn't slept since Maria's visit. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard it. The wet, chewing static from Lana's final recording. Her TV turned itself on. No remote, no power cord plugged in. The screen showed the Blackwell Bridge in real time, the camera angle suggesting it was being filmed from beneath the water. The surface rippled with those same humanoid shadows Maria had described. Then the image changed. A police station. Her police station. Ramirez stood frozen at his desk, his eyes wide, his skin flickering. One moment normal, the next pixelated like a bad signal. The static whispered through the TV speakers. "Watch." Ramirez's mouth opened. Static poured out, not metaphorically, literally. Thick, liquid noise that slithered down his chin and pooled on the floor, where it moved against gravity, crawling up the walls in branching patterns like lightning made of TV snow. The other officers didn't notice. They were too busy listening to their radios. Their own mouths began dripping static. Evelyn lunged to unplug the TV. Her hand passed through the screen. The static grabbed her. Cold. So cold it burned. The last thing she saw before the screen went dark was her own reflection. Except her eyes were gone, replaced by pulsing static. The TV turned off. The house fell silent. Then, from the shoebox at her feet, a cassette tape clicked on by itself. Lana's voice, clearer than ever. "Mom, I'm here. I'm everywhere. The static isn't bad. It's beautiful. You'll see soon." Evelyn screamed, but no sound came out. Only static. The signal spreads. By dawn, half the precinct staff were gone. Their uniforms lay neatly folded at their desks. Their radios buzzed with whispers, and their dash cams all showed the same 17-second clip. The officer walking calmly to their patrol car, turning the key, and driving toward Blackwell Bridge before the footage dissolved into noise. The bridge itself had changed overnight. The concrete was now etched with thousands of tiny waveforms. Actual radio frequencies burned into the stone. Touch them, and your fingers came away numb, as if the signal had leached into your skin. The river flowed backward now, its current pulling toward the bridge instead of away. The water was blacker than oil, its surface occasionally broken by glitches, brief flashes of something moving beneath, too large to be human. And the payphone, the one Maria had found with the severed cord, was ringing again. It never stopped. Answer it, and you'd hear, "Thank you for calling Blackwell Broadcasting. All circuits are busy. Please stay on the line." Then screaming, then laughter, then the bridge's song, that same metallic hum that vibrated in your teeth. Hang up, and your phone would ring immediately after. Same caller, same message. Until you either threw your phone into the river, or the static crawled out of the receiver and into your ears. Ramirez was the last holdout at the precinct. He'd barricaded himself in the evidence room, surrounded by Faraday cages meant to block signals. It didn't help. The static wasn't just radio waves anymore. It was in the air, in the dust motes, in the humidity, in the spaces between molecules. His walkie hissed to life. Ramirez, Daniel's voice, Maria's, Lana's, dozens more. You can't stay silent forever. The lights went out. When they flickered back on, the evidence room was different. The walls pulsed with static. The floor undulated like liquid. And standing before him were three figures, Daniel, Maria, and a teenage girl he assumed was Lana. Their eyes were pure signal. Their mouths moved in unison. The broadcast needs you. Ramirez reached for his sidearm. His hand passed through it. He looked down. His body was half static now, dissolving into noise. Daniel smiled. Don't fight it. The signal is clear on this side. Maria held out a hand. Join us. Lana whispered. We've missed you. Ramirez tried to scream. The static swallowed the sound. And when the lights came back on, the evidence room was empty. Except for the radio still playing, and a new voice joining the chorus. This is Officer Luis Ramirez, coming to you live. His tone was perfect. Broadcast ready. The signal is alive. The static is spreading. And soon everyone will be part of the broadcast. The wind howled through the narrow streets of the city, carrying with it the scent of rain and something darker, something metallic. Hale adjusted the strap of his satchel, his fingers brushing against the hilt of his dagger out of habit. The marketplace was thinning out as dusk settled, merchants packing their wares and beggars retreating into the shadows. A flicker of movement caught his eye. Near the alleyway between the blacksmiths and the apothecary, a cloaked figure lingered just beyond the reach of the flickering lantern light. Cale slowed his steps, feigning interest in a nearby fruit stall, but his attention never left the stranger. Then, as if sensing his gaze, the figure turned slightly, just enough for Cale to catch the glint of silver beneath the hood. A pendant? A weapon? Before he could decide, the stranger melted into the alley's darkness. Cale exhaled sharply. He had a choice. Walk away and pretend he hadn't seen anything, or follow and risk whatever waited in the unseen corners of the city. His dagger felt heavier at his side as he made his decision.